guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are reviewing John Wick Chapter 4. And I've always enjoyed the John Wick films. You know, I think they're a great demonstration of what can be done with just great choreography, great stunt work, and great editing and cinematography. I think they're really good staple examples of just good action cinema in Hollywood. I wouldn't say they're necessarily great films overall, but as action cinema, they definitely kind of set the standard. And John Wick Chapter 4 is basically more of the same. I've seen so many reviews kind of giving it 9s, giving it 10s. I think IGN gave it a 10 and called it a masterpiece. And then I remember seeing one review, I think from Empire, that gave it 3 stars. And having watched it now, I'm definitely more in that camp than I am masterpiece. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I think it is just kind of sticking to the tried and tested formula of 2 and 3. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think if you love John Wick Chapter 2 and John Wick Parabellum, you're going to love this one. I do just think they're all just kind of interchangeable at this point. They're all films that just kind of have no plot, little to no character development, and just action for action's sake. You know, the narratives are very action driven. You will take side quests, your narrative will pivot purely to get to another action set piece. And I have absolutely no problem with that, but I think when you're 4 films deep into a franchise, you need something else to kind of keep your engagement hooked. And for me, John Wick Chapter 4 just doesn't have that. We'll start with the action, you know, because that is really the reason why everyone goes to watch these films. And the action is second to none, again. I think it probably boasts some of the best in the franchise, easily. There's a great kind of extended action set piece at the start in the kind of Japanese Osaka Continental Hotel, led by Hiroyuki Sanada, that kind of congregates all the main players in the film for the first time. So that's really intense. The action just kind of goes on, and it's great fun to watch. But clocking in at 2 hours 40 minutes, this film does just have an abundance of action that does just get a bit numbing and stale after a while. To the point where a lot of the kind of final shootouts and stuff, I was just a bit disengaged. You know, there's only so many shootouts you can put John Wick through where his only real defense is going like that with his jacket, and somehow he still doesn't get headshotted by the dozens of thugs coming at him. The action is all great. As I said, it's really well choreographed, really well shot, really well edited. There's not a false beat in there. It is just an excessive amount, and it does just kind of grate you after a while. You think the pace isn't really benefiting in this film because there's not enough story and material to kind of keep you hooked. They could just cut down on a few of the bits and it would be a much more succinct, much more enjoyable package, in my opinion. This isn't a bad film, don't get me wrong. I think this is really fun. It's easily as good as the others, if not maybe slightly better in some regards, but also slightly worse. 2, 3, and 4 I think are definitely just going to blur into one. They're just kind of globe-trotting stories of John Wick having bad luck and encountering bad situations that he has to shoot and stab his way out of. There's really nothing more to these films than that. And this film kind of attempts to give John Wick a bit more of a character journey and kind of wrap everything up to kind of bring it full circle by the end. But I think because there's so little of that in the script for the preceding 2.5 hours, the ending doesn't really stick for me. Like, I don't feel emotionally attached to John Wick. I love him as a kind of conduit, as this like stoic vessel that just gets himself involved in action sequences. I love watching John Wick for that. I love watching it to see Keanu Reeves pushing 60, pulling off half the stunts he manages to achieve. Exactly the same for Donnie Yen. These films feel like kind of levels of a video game, you know, like with each one you kind of get higher up in this like hierarchy of villains you're going to have to take out. And so I suppose this one kind of serves as the main boss at the end. I enjoyed this film. I do think it's getting a bit of overrated hype at the moment, but I did enjoy it. It's not a bad film by any means. Come for the action, stay for the action, because that's ultimately all you're going to get in these films. And if you kind of accept that going in, I think you'll have a great time with it. If, like me, you're kind of wanting a bit more from this franchise 10 years in and 4 films in, then you might feel slightly shortchanged. I think at 2 hours 40 minutes they could have done a lot more narratively than they choose to do. The characters are ultimately just screen presences and great one-liners, and that's all they've ever really been in this franchise, so I don't think it's any real surprise that there's not much more to them here. Standout is definitely Donnie Yen. He's the one who kind of gets the closest thing to a character arc in this film. John Wick's kind of falls by the wayside to the point where he almost feels quite peripheral for the first hour of the film. But yeah, good film, not a masterpiece by any means in my humble opinion. But if you've seen it, do let me know what you guys think. Please also consider liking and subscribing to the channel, guys. That's always a huge help for me. And in the meantime, we'll see you for the next vid.